Good morning, it's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and today I want to talk about the concept of freedom, because we're all looking for freedom, right? But when we're chronically ill, when we're chronically sick, when we are having chronic symptoms and chronic suffering and chronic pain, freedom means something else to us, right? We want freedom. We want freedom from pain, freedom from suffering, freedom from our symptoms, freedom from illness, freedom from disease. And it's very great for somebody to say, well, you are not your body, right? You are not your body. And when we identify with our body, or we even identify with our thoughts at a very basic level, that is not who we are. We are the soul inside. And when we're identified with our body and when we're identified with our thoughts, we can't be free, right? And it's very hard for people with chronic illness, chronic pain, to disidentify from their bodies, because when they feel the pain, that's simply all they feel like they are the pain. You are the pain. And the reason you feel like you are the pain is because you are consumed by it and you cannot disidentify with it, right? You become it because you can't disidentify from it. So being able to disidentify from our conditions and then from our pain and suffering is paramount in order to being free. And I know it's a very complicated, so let me start at the beginning with this. So I just wanted to give you a little preamble about what this video is about and what it entails and what it means, and how to reconcile the fact that you can't stop thinking about your body, therefore you become consumed with it, you become the pain, right? And how we can break this and what we can do about this. So a lot of times when it comes to chronic pain and chronic suffering, it's very complicated, because it's not just the pain that we're identified with, the physical pain that we want to be free from. So if you're in chronic pain, or just substitute that for any other chronic symptom that is driving you crazy and you just feel like you will never be free unless that goes, we're not only identified with the pain itself, right? We're consumed on it, we're fixated on it, we are laser focused on the actual sensation of the pain. That's not the only thing that makes us not free. It's the most relevant because it's the one sending off the sirens, and it's we think to ourselves, if I could get rid of this pain, if I could only break free, if this pain would only go away, I would be free. But really the pain has gotten there usually because we're so disidentified with the other thoughts in our head that, like, when we think things like, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm never going to be enough, nobody loves me, like, I'm all alone, I'm not good enough, right? When we have these thoughts, those are the thoughts that create dis-ease in the body, right? They create this dis-ease from our soul, because we know those thoughts are not congruent with who we are and what we really want to believe in this world. So that sets us up for disease, for symptoms, for suffering. So it's the underlying things underneath the pain that actually increase the actual pain, and had the pain usually manifest in the beginning, or even if it was an accident or something that happened to you that caused this, the reason it got chronic was because of the thoughts, right? And the subconscious patterns and the things that we're not listening to underneath. The problem is underneath, the dis-ease is underneath. It's usually with our thinking mind. And that's where we're actually not free from. That's where we're having a hard time breaking and getting free. But if we can get free in those areas, then we can free things up, and the pain can have a chance to go away. The pain can have a chance to not have a reason and a need to be there. Because if we're free spiritually and emotionally, then we can be free physically. Okay, so we know that we are not our disease. Like, we don't want to say, I am depressed, I am anxious, I'm depressed, I'm in pain. I mean, that's just, you are identified, you are your disease in that case. So take away the labels, take away the I am. I am experiencing some sensations that are uncomfortable. Could be something that you could substitute. I am in pain, right? I'm anxious, right? I'm depressed. Could be like, I'm having some overwhelming feelings I'm having a hard time with, and I need to look inside. Right? These are more truths. And so really the thing is, they stem from things that we're not good enough. We're gonna fail. They stem from deeper roots. And so it's always important that we work on the internal first, because the external and the body is an extension of what's happening internally. The problem is that pain consumes so much of our energy and so much of our focus, and it's hard to do inner work when you're in a lot of extreme outer pain. It's hard to shut those sirens off, because those sirens put you in a sympathetic state. They put you into fight or flight, and that is survival mode. So when you're experiencing that excruciating level of symptoms and pain and suffering, you're in survival mode, and it's not a good mode for you to be able to do inner work, right? No one who's running from a tiger is able to sit down and talk about their feelings or how it makes them feel. They literally have to escape the tiger before that they can sit down and talk about how that made them feel, or what they could do differently next time, or right? So that's the problem. That is the catch-22. We know we have to focus on the inner work, but the pain's distracting us so much and putting us in the survival mode. So it's very difficult to be able to do the inner work while we're in survival mode. So one of the first things that we have to do is convince our body that we're safe. Once we can get out of survival mode, once we can get out of fight or flight, once we can calm, once the tiger is not chasing us, we can reflect and we can do this inner work. We can do the work that it requires to really be free psychologically, internally, and then it will help with the extension with our outer work. But we have to learn how to turn it off while we're in fight or flight. So if you haven't seen my video about fight, flight, and freeze, if being in fight or flight and how to turn that off, go back and watch that. There's some good ideas there, but that's not what this video is about today. It's about freedom, right? So we're going to get back to this topic. Okay, so freedom means like you're happy now. You're in the moment now. You're free now, right? It's never a future thing. You're never free in the future. Like, if only I could get that house or that $1 million or this or that or the other, or get that relationship, get that thing, then I'll feel happy. Then I'll feel free, right? This is not a pursuit. If we're always waiting to feel happy or good or free until we get there, that's always a future state. That's a future state. And we're never in the future. We're always in the now. So we're never going to get to the future. We're never going to get to that future state if we're waiting to get there. So a lot of people with chronic illness will say, when my pain is gone, when this illness is under control, when this disease goes away, when my pain lets up, when this is able to happen, then I'll live my life. Then I'll be free. Then I'll be happy. Then I'll work on my relationship. Then I'll get a job. Then I'll live my life, right? And this is the hardest thing. And this was the hardest thing for me. This is the hardest thing because your pain is so urgent that you always put it off into the future. Like, when my pain finally goes away, when I'm finally able to heal, when this symptom finally goes away, I will feel free. I will feel happy. I'll be able to live my life. I'll be able to work on my relationship. I'll be able to get a job. I'll be able to play with my kids. I'll be able to do everything if only. And we're putting our freedom in the thought of a future state, right? When we are able to reach this future state, we'll somehow be free. And we have to be able to change that if we want to heal. And I know it's hard, but we have to be able to say, I'm going to look for ways, moments, tiny ways to be free now, to be happy now, to live my life now. And maybe you can't live your full life at this point, but you can find little ways to interact with people, to connect with people, to build your relationships, to get your finances on track, to be happy, to laugh, to live in the moment, because that's where freedom is. that's where freedom is. So the fact is, resistance to what is right now in this moment is causing you some degree of suffering, right? Because it's not allowing ourselves to be free. So when we resist our emotions or our thoughts, our sadness, our anger, when we resist, something that's happening, when we resist this, we're causing stress to our body. We're causing an inner upset, right? We're fighting. We're our own antagonist. We're fighting against ourselves. And with health issues, when you resist, and I know you want to resist it, because how can you fully accept your disease or your pain, your symptoms? But when we come out of resisting them, when we just say, this is the way it is, this is the way my body is right now, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to walk, I'm going to live my life, I'm going to do everything I can. I know the right steps to take and I'm going to do them. I'm going to do everything I can. But when we're not fighting ourselves every minute of every day on a basic level, we step out of resistance. When we're just like, I don't like this isn't what I want, and it's not ideal. And that's why I have all these things that I'm doing. That's why I'm eating this diet, I'm doing this thing, I'm doing all the things that I know will help me and benefit me. But in the moment, there's nothing you can do but accept what is. And so when we accept what is, we drop resistance. That's what it means. It's just to drop the fight against yourself to make it different. Why isn't it better? Why isn't it going away? Why can't I stop this? Why can't I solve this? We're dropping the fight with ourselves. We're dropping the resistance to ourselves. Resistance is friction. It's inner stress and inner turmoil. It causes our body to get in fight or flight mode. It causes us not to be able to get into that healing mode that's necessary, and it causes friction. It causes literal inflammation in the body. So it compounds the problem that already is. So if we would just accept the problem that already is and say, I'm doing everything I can, I'm taking the steps, I'm doing the work that I can, but I can't do any more in this moment except for release, let go, accept what is, accept the moment, that I can't change it in this moment, rather than continually to hold myself to this standard and to give myself messages of you're a failure, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, this is never going to heal, right? Projecting into the future. This is where that inner turmoil and that inner friction comes from, and it's causing your disease, your symptoms, your pain to be worse. It's causing it to be worse. It's causing it to flare up more. Right? Because of what we're telling it. We're not free. We're not free in the moment. We can never get untangled from ourselves, from the fight against ourselves. So really take this in for a minute. So I think this is what I had the hardest time with, and I know most people have the hardest time with, is that you think I'm saying, just accept it. Don't care. Don't try to change it. Don't worry about it. It's no problem. Just accept having this pain, or just accept that your life is not what you want it. Accept it, right? There's nothing you can do, so just accept it. Accept it. Don't try to change it. That's not what I'm saying. That's what people hear, but that's not the message underneath. You can have 100% commitment to changing your situation, to eating right, to going to bed on time, to doing all the lifestyle factors, to knowing in your heart that you're 100% committed to changing what needs to be changed, and to living a different life, and to meeting your future goals, and to being who you want to be physically. You can be 100% committed to that goal without fighting yourself in the moment, without trying to change what is now. When we accept what is now, we say, I am 100% committed to changing this. I'm 100% committed to my future goals, but I'm going to stop beating up myself now. I'm going to be on my side. I'm going to stand with myself instead of against myself. I'm not going to tell myself I'm a failure, that I'm stupid, that I'm not worthy, that I'll never be able to get it right, that I'll never be able to heal. This is an antagonist, right? You're being your own antagonist when you're not accepting the reality of the current moment. You can still be 100% committed to your future moments and where you want your life to go and how you plan to chart that. But in the moment of what is actually happening right now, the symptom that is actually going right now, be with yourself, not against yourself. Accept that this is the current reality, that this is what is, and don't fight what is. You can try to change it. You can try to change what's better in a calm, loving way to yourself. You must speak lovingly, encouragingly, supportively, be on your side. Remind yourself to find happy moments right now in the future. You can still be here in the future and try to find what you can enjoy about right now, instead of saying, no, I won't even look at right now. I won't look at right now because all I want to do is make this go away, and until this goes away, I can't accept the now. You're in resistance. That's in resistance. That's what I'm trying to hear this. It's very, very important to hear what I just said. So people with chronic pain and chronic symptoms usually think it's all about the pain. It's all about the pain, right? But that's not the only place that you're not free. That's not the only place in your life that you're not able to be with or accept. Just think about anything else going on in your life that isn't the pain. How many times do you fly off the handle? Do you get triggered by something someone says, does, relationships in your life, events that don't go your way? Every time you feel a little emotionally charged, right? Or triggered by a person or an event or situation that's not your symptom, you are not free, right? And we think it's all about the pain, but it's not. Every time you get upset or charged even a little, or you feel a trigger from any relationships, from any conversations that you're having, anything's going on in your world, any things that you have to do, a to-do list that is in front of you, anything, it could be anything at all that upsets you a little, that triggers you a little, that stresses you out, anything that makes you upset, that makes you feel angry, that makes you feel sad, any of these things. That is really the work that you need to do, because it's not all about the pain. It's about all those cumulative things throughout the day. It's about all those things. That's where we need to be free. So can we be with this? Can we be with this feeling? Maybe we can't be with the pain, but can we be with this relationship, with this person who's just said that to us, with this to-do list that's stressing me out because it's not done, with this messy house that I wish was clean but is not? Can I be with the feelings? Because if you can't, any little thing will push your fight or flight nervous system, especially when it's already activated. We're trying to settle it. So remember, anything on top of that will keep it activated. We have to shut off everything else. We're shutting off the circuits and the powers to calm our system, to get out our fight or flight. That's the most important thing. And every time someone upsets you, ping, you have a reaction to something, there's a sad thing comes up in your life, a to-do list is not getting done, you just have a little argument, anything that's happening, your kids don't listen to you, your husband gives you a look, whatever. You're causing your fight or flight nervous system to activate. You're in sympathetic mode, cortisol goes, everything goes off, and you're in fight or flight, and you're not getting out of it. And it makes the pain worse, it makes the suffering worse, and this is a cascading effect. So we must learn to be free of everything else going on in our life in order so that we can settle down and be like, I'm free in this moment. That's not going to bother me. I'm okay with that. I can sit with this. And you're kind of like in the center and the eye of the storm. It's when we stop reacting to everything that we can get out of fight or flight, that we can stay in the center and the calm of the storm. Even when our symptoms are flaring, we try to get in the center of it and stay centered. We don't let the other people affect us, the other comments, the other things going on, right? Because we don't want to be in fight or flight mode. We want to be in rest and repair mode. We want to be calm. We want to turn all those firing signals off. So it's a spiral effect here. So when all day long you're trying to eat the right foods, and you're trying to exercise, and you're trying to heal yourself, and you're trying to do all these things, which are great. I think you should do all these things. I've done them all. My channel is filled with information on protocols and things that you can do. But when the messaging underneath those things that you're doing is against yourself, is an antagonistic message, meaning, I hate you, I want you to stop, you failed me. You failed me. I'll never be able to figure it out. I'm stupid. You know, like you've ruined my life. My life is ruined. When these messages are the messages, doesn't matter what the diet is, what your bedtime is, all those great things are great. But when the deeper underlying messaging to yourself is against yourself, you're angry at yourself, you hate your body, you feel like it's failed you, you are pointing the finger at it, you're in battle against your own self and your own body for having failed you and for having, feeling like this. When that's the case, see if I can get out of the sun here. When that's the case, that messaging is so destructive. That's where you're not at peace. That's where you're not free. That's where you're always going to be in fight or flight mode against yourself, right? You're waging battle against yourself. You're angry at your body. You're angry at yourself for not getting this right, for not healing yet. This anger, this internal frustration and disappointment and self-rejection and self-hate. When the body hears this all the time, these are the cascading messages. It can't heal. It can't heal in that state. It can't heal. You have to love and pour love on yourself, acceptance on yourself, like encouragement on yourself. You have to give yourself these messages of hope and like, I'm with you and you can do it. And messages that like, I believe in you. I love you. I will never leave you. I'll never abandon you. Right? I believe in you. I believe you can heal this. I believe you can fix this. We're on the right track. Right? Messages, different messages are going to be the things that are going to help you. So, yeah. So look, I'm not asking you to stop wishing that your life wasn't like this, to accept your condition and your symptoms and everything that you don't want because it makes your life not the way you want your life to be. I'm not asking you not to like it and not to wish you could change it. But I am asking you in this moment, in the moment of what is, to accept what is, to lay down your weapons and to just stop trying to control it. Because you realize that you don't have control in this very, very moment. You can want better, you can do better, you can even wish it wasn't so. But you have to stop controlling something that you can't control. You have to lay your weapons down. Lay down those words of hate for yourself. Lay down making yourself wrong because you're not where you want to be. Lay all that down because that is true freedom. When you stop controlling, when you lay it all down and you say, I love you anyway. I'm here anyway. Yeah, we're going to try to make this better. But right now, there's nothing I can do, so I am just going to love you. I'm just going to love you. I'm going to be here with you now. That's true freedom. That's true peace in that moment. When you're not writhing against that moment. When you're not trying to change that moment. When you're not so angry at yourself and against yourself. You can have some peace in the moment. Even if you have symptoms, you can find freedom and peace. And if you do that with all your moments, those string together, all that will string together. This love, this freedom, this sense of, I'm setting it down. I'm doing better. I'm doing what I can, but I'm not angry at myself for what I can't. And when you start to believe that and you start to live that way, they start to string together and your psychology starts to change your physiology. And this is when healing starts to happen. When we're out of fight or flight, we're loving and compassionate to ourselves and kind to ourselves, our body can physically begin the journey of healing. And we're with it all the way, whether it does it or doesn't. We are loving it in each moment to the finish line, rather than berating it to the finish line. Do you see the difference? You're your own best cheerleader. So look, how do you feel about your symptoms, about your illness? And if you were to come and see me and tell me your story, it might look something like, I feel, you tell your backstory and then you say, I've tried everything, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this. What you're telling me is that I'm not okay with myself. I've tried all this and I've failed. And I would hear a sense of beating up on yourself. And it would either be a really urgent, like you've got to help me, it's an urgent, there's a lot of anxiety to it, or it would be a really angry way of talking about yourself. You're angry at yourself, you feel like a failure, you're totally saddled with self-hate, or you'd be coming at it like with such sadness of loss and or a desperation, right? A desperation because you've lost and you're missing out, a real deep sadness or an anger. So there's all these different ways that I could hear that story, that you could tell that story about how you've tried all these things and they haven't worked. Are you angry about that? Are you feeling desperate? Are you totally grief-stricken, heartbroken, feeling lonely, isolated, abandoned? What are the feelings underneath that? What is this feelings underneath the symptoms that you're holding? What are you telling yourself? What is the story that you're telling yourself? What is the emotion that you're carrying and you're directing to yourself, right? Are you directing anger, desperation, neediness, helplessness, anger, frustration, resentment? What are you directing at yourself? That is where you need to change. That's the work, right? That's where you need to come to peace to. You need to stop treating yourself that way. You need to have freedom from that judgment and criticism that you're placing on yourself. So instead of trying to focus so much on your headaches or your severe back pain or your muscle pain or your chronic fatigue syndrome or your IBS or whatever it is, instead of focusing on this, find the mental prison that you're living in. What is that mental prison that you're living on? And focus on that. Focus on freeing that, freeing yourself from the mental prison. What is it you're saying to yourself? What is it you're making yourself feel badly about? What is that emotion underneath it? Right? Free yourself from that. That's the real work. That's the real healing work. That's what you do have control over. You might not have control over that headache, but you have control over the mental prison that surrounds that headache. The things you say to yourself, the things that you think about yourselves and the way you feel about yourself, and that the way you're directing anger or self-hatred or helplessness or hopelessness or despair or total fear, right? What mental prison are you living in? That's your work. That's your work, right? Accept the headache and work on freeing yourself by loving yourself, right? By noticing, by becoming aware, and by freeing yourself through love, through acceptance, right? You have a choice to make here. Okay, so as I said, it's not easy. It's not easy to be riddled with pain and suffering and be like, I can be okay in this moment, right? Accepting this moment. But if you can't accept it, if you can't accept that current moment, if you fight against it, you're in resistance and you're gonna kick up your central nervous system. You are going to go in fight or flight. So if you just cannot cope with the present moment, the present symptoms, if they're so overwhelming that you literally can't be okay in that moment because they're too intense, then you are going to make it worse. Because when you say, I can't be in this moment, I can't be with myself in this moment, with my physical body in this moment, you're going to kick up more fight or flight, you're going to kick up cortisol, you're going to kick up all the stress hormones, and that is going to inevitably make it worse. So sometimes it's important to say, what do I need to be able to be okay in this moment? Yes, I don't like it. Yes, I hate it, but how can I love myself? How can I sit in the eye of the storm? How can I just accept what is right now? And maybe it's hugging somebody. Maybe it's crying. Maybe it's releasing a little bit. Maybe it's telling somebody your feelings and letting it out. Maybe it's telling people can endure anything usually if they know there's an end. And so what really gets us with chronic pain and suffering is that we're not okay because we can't accept this for our future. So what can you tell yourself in that moment to be okay? Tell yourself it's going to end. Say, I can endure this moment because I know it will end. I know it will end. I know I'm going to be okay. I know I'm going to heal. Give yourself the permission to endure it now because you know an end is coming, right? So you could need, just ask yourself, what do I need right now in this moment in order to accept it, in order to not fight against it? And then give it to yourself. Do it. I know part of it is love, right? Part of it is nice, happy, easy self-talk. So we're looking at getting ourselves into acceptance, and we do that through self-love by giving ourselves what we need in the moment in order to cope and endure. And we're committed to changing for the future, to being better, to making a better life, to making a difference, to doing whatever it is. But we're just going to accept this moment, and we love ourselves in the moment. We give ourselves what we need in each moment so that we don't kick up our nervous system, so that we don't, as soon as we say, I can't cope with this moment, you're literally in fight or flight because you've sensed danger, and your body is now feeling, I can't cope with this, danger, danger, and it's going to make it worse. It's going to kick up the symptoms. The only way to start healing is by creating a safe space for yourself, a safe, loving haven where you feel cared for, accepted, loved, comforted, even if you're giving it all to yourself, a place that you can feel free. Choose freedom and peace in the moment. And once you're free in your moments, you will start to change your physiology. You will start to change your life. You can now begin to heal. So I hope this video has been helpful. I really hope you heard what I said. And it's really important. So really don't take this lightly. I mean, this is the basis of how can you heal yourself? If you're asking that question, what's it going to take? How can I heal myself? This is an answer. This is the answer. This is what you need to do. The emotional and the mental work that you need to do in order to start to heal, in order to allow your body to heal, right? It's called freedom. Freedom in each moment.